Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dallas Cowboys coverage after a huge victory against the Philadelphia Eagles. I really did think the Cowboys were going to win this game, but they won it by way more than I expected. I think the offense, was about where I expected it would be, but I mean, the job the defense did to step up, just shut down the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the top offenses in the league, scores zero offensive touchdowns. That's quite a feat, really. The Cowboys they were dominant. I think this whole narrative of not being able to beat a winning team finally broken by the Seahawks, but even then it was kind of like, how good are they really? But then you go, beat the best team record wise in the NFL and now take over first place in the division. I mean, I think that's a huge statement. I mean, there's just no more, they haven't beat a winning team. We beat the best team, record wise now. So, what are you going to say now? I think it just was such a statement, signature victory for the Cowboys. Dak Prescott played a great game and even further, um, just kind of put his MVP stock up. Obviously, I think, it wasn't like the perfect game. Dak mentioned himself that there were some flaws. It wasn't, there were times where maybe he wasn't at his best. And I think to me, that's just almost even more encouraging. The fact that, not even playing your best game did that to the, defending NFC champs and the best team in the league, as I keep saying record wise so far. I mean, that's a statement victory. And I think, there's still more you can do. You can still even get better. But what a way, just to kick off this really huge stretch of games upcoming for the rest of December. Finishing off strong against the Seahawks, kind of capping off a great November, finally get that winning team, victory, and then go on, beat probably the hardest team of this schedule, the Eagles. It's huge. Obviously, you have two tough road games with the Bills and the Dolphins, and those are not going to be easy victories by any means, but I think this is just the boost of confidence that you needed going into those games to be able to take them on and, go out, get two more victories. These are two teams that have been very good at times, but at times they've also been, I guess, exposable. I think there's not one team so far, this season that just hasn't shown flaws, in a game or two where they've just really struggled. There's no unbeatable teams out there. There never is. But this year, I think in particular, there's a lot of things that you can exploit, especially with the teams you're going to be playing. It's just going to be another matter of being prepared, having that game plan ready, and going out and playing your best football. Something this team has done a very good job of as of late, and I just hope they can continue that through December and into a playoff run. I've said it I think multiple times that this team feels just a little bit different. I don't want to go crazy because I feel like every time we go with this is our year, something terrible happens. But to me, it's just this team needs to not worry about the Super Bowl right now, not worry about the playoffs even, as of this moment. Just take it one game at a time. You've done that so far this season, and even with some early struggles, this offense has looked better than ever. Dak has looked more comfortable than he's ever looked. And if you can just kind of keep it up, continue, take it one game at a time, this team has the potential to be great. And I think if you can have that defense that showed up last week combined with the offense we've seen as of late, that's dangerous. And that's really, really exciting. So defensively, big shout out to Stephon Gilmore. He was for sure my player of the game for last week, but I think he's just had a quiet season, I guess. He's been solid, hasn't been bad by any means, but I think Deron Bland's just incredible play has kind of, put him sort of in that second place, just kind of not super in the spotlight, perhaps. But he's really done a good job, I think, overall, just consistently being that number two cornerback, something that you've kind of missed. Anthony Brown was that guy for a long time, and that was kind of not the best thing, considering, especially now that you finally moved on from him. I mean, he hasn't gotten better than a practice squad gig as far as I know this season, and I think that just kind of shows that we like our guys mentality has been a bit flawed. I think it's kind of the same situation with Jordan Lewis. You gave him that second contract where I'm afraid after this season, when he probably is let go, I'm not sure if he finds another home, and maybe it's a practice squad, maybe it's a, bench option, but I think it just kind of shows this theme of the Cowboys being so obsessed with their guys and keeping, these homegrown players. Nothing wrong with that. You've homegrown a lot of good ones, but when you've reached this point where, it's kind of an average player at best, and there just needs to be an upgrade. I think it's time, to do that. And I think this is something that the Cowboys finally did this offseason, at least, somewhat with Stephon Gilmore and Brandin Cooks, something that we just haven't seen. And I think that's finally just paying off. Stephon Gilmore been consistent all year, but then goes out and has this type of game against a top receiver in the game with A.J. Brown. Pretty sure A.J. Brown called Stephon Gilmore old during the game, and I think Gilmore did not take kindly to that. So don't call Gilly old, because he can still shut you down, and he did so in the best way on Sunday night. I mean, he was in A.J. Brown's head. He was getting him all flustered and frustrated. He shut him down. That's the type of cornerback you need on this team, and obviously kind of having to step into that number one role with Diggs out. But man, if only Diggs could have stayed healthy. If Gilmore can return next season and you have a pairing of Diggs, Gilmore, and Deron Bland, man, that's a scary thing to think about. And I just wish we could have seen more of that this season. But truly, Stephon Gilmore, Deron Bland, of course, really done a great job. And I think this secondary as a whole has, kind of outweighed just done better than expected. I mean, Malik Hooker's done a really good job at that free safety spot. Another player that kind of injury riddled at the beginning of his career comes in, sort of revives himself in Dallas. Jaron Kearse, same type of thing. You really have a lot of talent on this defense, and when they're playing like they did against the Eagles, that's really, really a huge boost. Also, Diggy another good game. DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, Markquese Bell, I think, has just emerged out of nowhere as a, safety linebacker. He's done such a good job. The one downside I will talk about is Johnathan Hankins did go down with what is believed to be a high ankle sprain. I bet he doesn't play next week. Dolphins game, we'll see about that. But it is a loss, because I think of the whole defense, really the whole team, that weakness is still defensive tackle. You drafted Mozzie Smith in the first round, hasn't quite been what you've hoped he would be. It's still early for him, but as of now, Osa's been really good. But aside from him, that defensive tackle spot is very, very thin. So to lose Johnathan Hankins is definitely a tough loss. Hopefully he can get back sooner rather than later, but that's definitely going to be a role where Mozzie Smith, maybe Neville Gallimore, guys need to step up, because that's really going to be a crucial spot. Fortunately, the Bills aren't, I think their run game has improved is the thing, but it's just a need that needs to be addressed. And I think hopefully will be further addressed this offseason, but right now you're very thin. So hopefully some defensive tackles can step up, because you do not want to, be letting running backs run over you. That's the last thing this defense needs. And I think that's really the one weakness. I mean, we've seen the takeaways, we've seen the great coverage, we've seen the pass rush, but just that run defense, I think, has been the one thing that's just kind of been the kryptonite of this defense. So hopefully they can overcome this loss and get Johnathan Hankins back in there sooner than later, but it's definitely going to be something to kind of keep an eye on there. So really, overall, though, a great game by the defense. Special teams as well. Brandon Aubrey, Special Teams Player of the Week. First player in NFL history to make two 59-plus yard field goals in the same game. Feels like he actually is making history every week, considering he is currently holding and breaking the longest streak of any kicker in NFL history for made field goals to start a career. He has made his first 30 career field goals, all of them, and they have not been chip shots. I mean, we've seen these 60 pluses. Brandon Aubrey, I owe you an apology. Honestly, I was concerned at the beginning of the year. I'm like, who is this? Brandon Aubrey? I apologize. Whoever made the decision to sign him, got to give him credit, because Brandon Aubrey, he has just been a revelation at the kicker spot. Probably going to be an all-pro this year, considering the way he's playing. Just figure out those few extra points, and you have perhaps the best kicker in the league. Obviously, Justin Tucker's great out there in the AFC, but Brandon Aubrey hasn't missed. So if he can keep this up, it's been incredible. So huge shout out to Brandon Aubrey. He's really just been an incredible player so far this season. Brian Anger didn't have to do much, as, I think that's what we want to see. Only one punt. It was a good one. But, if we can keep Brian Anger to one punt, no punts, that's a good look for this team. So really great job defensively and on special teams. Offense as well, I'm going to kind of switch back over there. Dak Prescott, solid game. No interceptions. Love to see it. Obviously, did have the one sort of strip sack that went for a touchdown. That was pretty unfortunate. Unfortunately, Zach Martin also got beat once again there. Has really, I think just considering the whole holdout situation, the contract issues, Zach Martin has been probably a bit disappointing this year. I mean, as far as I'd have to check the stats, but I think he's allowed 3, maybe 4 sacks this season. I mean, that's just, unheard of for a player of Zach Martin's caliber. Didn't allow a single one all of last season. So, you know, is he just kind of getting older? I think this is something you got to come to expect, but it's just definitely disappointing after making this whole stink in the offseason. He gets the contract extension and then really, Zach Martin, I love him, but just has not been playing the best football for sure. Probably, I mean, if you look at his career, he's just, I think we're so used to this just domination, all Pro Bowler every year. I'm not saying he's not that anymore. I think he probably will still be a Pro Bowler this season, but I think there's definitely been that dip, just not quite maybe what he's been. And I think that gradual decline has, become more and more evident. So hopefully he can bounce back. He's still a great player, don't get me wrong, but just, seeing Zach Martin give up a strip sack that goes for a touchdown is just kind of, it just feels wrong. So hopefully he can just keep getting back on track. But as a whole, the offensive line, I think, has been impressive. I mean, outside of a few bad plays, I think they've really done a good job. I hate to single out Terrence Steele, but just really, I think has been the one probably concern. Just that weak spot on the right side. I mean, I think he's still recovering coming off of that ACL surgery, but really he just has not been the same player this season. Much like I guess Michael Gallup, who finally had his touchdown, sort of had a mini bounce back game on Sunday. Happy for him seeing that he scored. So hopefully, Terrence Steele can also kind of do the get back on track, but we'll see. It's just kind of a matter of getting that consistency again, getting synced up with the rest of the line. I think it's just, he just needs time, and hopefully he can get back to the caliber of player that you paid him to be. Because, again, a big contract you gave out, and then to be playing subpar the way he has, it's just been a bit disappointing. Over to the left side, though, it's been incredible. I mean, I talked about it last video, Tyron Smith and Tyler Smith, the 2 T. Smiths on the left side, both number 1 PFF graded at their respective positions. I think what Tyron Smith in particular has done has just been, so incredible. So many injuries over the past few years. I mean, it's just been, he's the best when he's healthy, but he's unfortunately kind of never is. I think this year, though, only missed the 1 game. If he can keep playing the way he is, and if he can really, he plays like this when he's healthy. If he can stay healthy, it's, it's incredible. It's the best left tackle in football. It's just so exciting to see him at this age, mind you, he's not as old as you probably think, just considering how long he's been in the league, the injury issues. It feels like he's been here forever. But for him to be playing at this level, it's just really, really good to see. Because one of my favorite players, and I just hated all the talk about him being a cut candidate and all this. I just, I hate to see someone like him go, a true captain and leader of this team, just to see him playing the way he has. But it's been incredible. And then on the other side, the rookie or second-year player, I just mean the young guy in Tyler Smith coming up at this age, so quickly after there were so many concerns about him after being drafted, the penalty issues, the just, inconsistencies, how's he going to be in the NFL? What he's done has been absolutely incredible. And again, paired next to the veteran in Tyron Smith, I think has made a huge impact. I even shout out Jason Peters for the job he did last year as a mentor. Tyler Smith he's in good hands, surrounded by 2 future Hall of Famers, but what he's done so early in his career, he deserves to be a Pro Bowler this season. He's just been so good. So just huge shout out to the offensive line. Still work to be done, but they've really made a lot of improvements, and it's just good to see them finally healthy and as a unit. So along with that, I think comes the running game. Tony Pollard looked, correct me if I'm wrong, but he just looked faster last week. He somehow just kind of looked revitalized, and I think he's also, coming off of that foot surgery. It's going to, takes time, but I think he's finally kind of getting back into the groove of things. Statistically wasn't, gonna blow up the stat sheet, but he looked a lot better last week. And just to me, just seeing him run, he just looked free. He kind of looked like Tony Pollard again. So hopefully he can just continue on that track to getting back to where he was. Because if you can have last season's Tony Pollard really, into this team, it's just that'd be a huge boost to the running game and just the offense as a whole. Because we've seen CeeDee Lamb's been great. Brandin Cooks has been a lot better. He's been really good. Jake Ferguson, he's become one of my favorite players. I mean, he's been just so good, so reliable, and just the way he plays, the attitude he has. He'll jump over you. He'll get in your face. He'll throw you off of Dak Prescott if he needs to. His mindset and his mentality has just been such a refreshing thing to see. I think it just really speaks to the new sort of vibe of this Cowboys team brings. And if you can just continue to see that across the rest of the team, man, that's something you just love to see. That competitive nature. We saw it against Seattle. We saw it again here against the Eagles. That's just something really you love to see. So my point is the passing game has really, really been good. And then Tony Pollard, I think if he can just continue to get back on track, continue to be the running back we know he's capable of being, continue to just play that, complementary style just all across this offense. It's a scary thing to imagine. I mean, it's been so good just, with Dak playing the way he is. If you can just have everyone clicking, I think we've seen it more and more as the season's gone on. And it's something fun to think about for this team, especially going in, the rest of December and the playoffs. The potential it's limitless. The sky is the limit for this team. And I believe that they are truly a competitor, a contender. And I think they finally just kind of put it all on display against the Eagles. And it just showed that this team is capable of beating good teams. And you beat them bad. I mean, it wouldn't have even been close, if it weren't for that strip sack. The score would look even worse. That's all I'm trying to say. This team looks ready to compete, and there's obviously still great teams in this league. You have a lot of teams that are going to be contenders this season. I think in the NFC, it's probably not as big of a list, but you still have to get past the Niners. They still have your number. It's time to get revenge. It's time to get redemption. This team is capable, and if they can just keep playing the way they do, the way they have been, I really am excited to see them going forward. So obviously, huge matchup against the Bills. I will see you guys after that game. Predict the score for me. I think the Cowboys, it's gonna be a tough one, but I think all this talk I've been seeing is Dak Prescott on Josh Allen's level. To me, the question should be, is Josh Allen on Dak's level? Right now, he has been playing so well. This offense has been playing so well. And the Bills have been getting back on track. No disrespect to them, but they're not perfect. They have a lot of flaws, and their record, is their record for a reason. I think it's easy to say, there's been some tough teams, tough games, whatever. But, as a great coach once said, you are what your record says you are. So obviously there's more to it, of course, but you're better than them. Your record is better than them. And I believe this team is better than the Bills team is. So go out. It's going to be a cold one. It's going to be a tough one. But I believe this team can beat the Buffalo Bills. So thanks again for watching. I will see you guys after that game. Again, predict the scores. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and want to see more. Thanks again for watching. Go Cowboys, and I will see you guys next time.